She tugged his sleeve while he was laughing and whispered, "My mommy is bleeding." That was the moment the Korean Mafia boss stopped smiling. This isn't a story about violence for shock. It's about the exact second power changes hands. When a man who controls a city realizes a child's words can destroy everything he believes about control, loyalty, and mercy. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just how a little girl interrupted a crime lord's night. It's how she triggered a chain of events that would rewrite multiple lives forever. He had been in a good mood that night, unusually relaxed. The private room of the high-end restaurant buzzed softly with restrained laughter, expensive glassware, and the confidence of men who had never been told no. The Korean Mafia boss, Kang Jae-min, leaned back in his chair, one arm draped lazily over the leather booth, listening to his lieutenant recount a story that ended with bloodless profit and easy fear. Everything had gone exactly as planned. No complications, no resistance, no consequences. That was his world, clean, efficient, predictable, until the smallest presence in the room shifted the air. The little girl had been quiet the entire time. Too quiet. Jaemin had noticed her earlier, sitting at the edge of the room near the service corridor, legs dangling off a chair far too big for her, fingers folded tightly in her lap. She couldn't have been more than 5. She didn't cry, didn't speak, didn't fidget. Children like that always registered as anomalies in his mind. Kids were loud, messy, demanding. Silence in a child usually meant one of two things: discipline enforced too early, or fear learned too well. But she wasn't supposed to be part of the evening. She was collateral, a detail. The daughter of a woman who cleaned offices in one of his shell company's buildings. A woman who had shown up late that morning with a bruise she tried and failed to hide. The situation had been handled, delegated, filed away as irrelevant. Jae-min hadn't given it a second thought. Now the child stood beside him. He hadn't heard her approach. No footsteps, no sound. Just the sudden, impossible light pressure of tiny fingers wrapping around the expensive fabric of his sleeve. His laughter cut off mid-breath, more from surprise than irritation, and the men around him froze. No one touched him without permission. Ever. Instinctively, several hands moved, not to weapons, but to readiness. The room sharpened. Jae-min looked down. Her eyes were huge, dark, dry. Too dry. Her face was pale in that way children get when they've been awake too long or crying silently. Her grip on his sleeve trembled, but she didn't let go. She leaned closer, standing on the tips of her shoes so only he could hear her. "My mommy is bleeding," she whispered. Not screamed, not cried, whispered, like it was a secret she was afraid to say out loud. Like if she said it too strongly, something worse might happen. For a split second, no one moved. The restaurant's ambient music continued to play. Glass clinked somewhere outside the room. Soul moved on, unaware that a pivot point had just been reached. Jae-min felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Not fear, not anger, something colder, something heavier. His eyes flicked to the child's hands. There was dried blood under her fingernails. Small streaks of brown-red along the cuticles, missed by hurried washing. His smile vanished, not slowly, not dramatically, but completely, like it had never existed. "Where is your mother?" he asked quietly. The child shook her head. "Once. She told me not to tell, but she won't wake up." That sentence landed harder than any threat ever had. Around them, the men waited. They had seen their boss furious. They had seen him bored. They had seen him kill without raising his voice. But this silence was different. Calculating. Focused. Dangerous in a way that meant something irreversible was about to happen. Jaemin stood. The chair scraped softly against the floor, absurdly loud in the stillness. He crouched in front of the girl so they were eye level. His voice didn't soften, but it lowered. Controlled, precise. "Did someone hurt her?" The girl nodded. Tears finally slipped free, silent tracks down her cheeks. She said it was an accident, but she said that last time too. That was it. Jae-min straightened and turned to his men. His expression was calm, but everyone in the room felt the temperature drop. "Lock this place down," he said. "No one leaves. Find the woman, now." Chairs moved. Doors closed. Phones came out. Orders were relayed in clipped murmurs. The machine obeyed instantly. Jae-min looked back at the child, who was now hugging her arms around herself, like she was trying to hold her body together. "You did the right thing," he said. She didn't respond. She just looked at him with desperate hope, the kind that had no safety net left. And for the first time in a very long time, Kang Jae-min realized this night was no longer under his control. The woman was found exactly where Jae-min expected her to be. In the service stairwell behind the restaurant, slumped against the concrete wall as if she'd simply sat down to rest and forgotten how to stand back up. One shoe was missing. Her cleaning cart lay tipped on its side, supplies scattered like they'd been dropped in a hurry. Blood streaked the wall behind her head in a dark, uneven smear that told a story no apology could fix. She was breathing. Barely. Jae-min knelt beside her without hesitation, the expensive fabric of his coat touching the filthy floor. One of his men started to speak, maybe to warn him, maybe to offer to handle it, but a single glance shut him up. Jae-min pressed 2 fingers gently to the woman's neck. A pulse. Weak. Fast. Panic response fast. "How long?" he asked. 10 minutes. Maybe 15, someone answered. "She lost a lot of blood." Jae-min exhaled slowly. Not relief, calculation. "Call my doctor now and an ambulance, private. If I see a uniform, someone will regret it." His eyes moved to the woman's face. She was young, younger than he'd expected. Early 20s, maybe. A thin cut split her eyebrow. One cheek was already swelling, purple creeping beneath the skin. Her lips moved soundlessly, trying to form words that wouldn't come. He leaned closer. "Don't talk," he said. "You're not in trouble." Her eyes fluttered open just long enough to see him. Recognition flickered there. Fear followed. She tried to pull away, her body reacting before her mind could catch up, and immediately winced in pain. "I didn't," she rasped. "I'm sorry. I'll clean it. I didn't mean to." Jae-min's jaw tightened. He'd heard those words before. Always the same. From women who believed pain was their fault because someone else had told them so enough times. "You don't need to apologize," he said flatly. "Who did this?" Her gaze darted toward the stairwell door, toward the world beyond it, toward whoever she was more afraid of than him. He waited. Minutes stretched. Somewhere behind him, the little girl whimpered softly, clinging to one of his men who looked like he had no idea what to do with a crying child and was silently panicking about it. "It was my fault," the woman whispered. "I was late. I spilled something. He said I was careless." "He," Jae-min repeated. The woman swallowed. "My boyfriend." That word hit harder than if she'd said stranger. Jae-min stood slowly and turned to his men. "Find him." No one asked how. No one asked why. Phones were already moving. Cameras pulled. Databases searched. Faces matched. The city was very good at hiding people from the law. It was not good at hiding them from him. The ambulance arrived in under 6 minutes. No sirens. No lights. The doctor followed shortly after, immaculate and silent, assessing the woman with efficient precision. As she was lifted onto the stretcher, the little girl broke free and ran to her, sobbing now, clutching at her mother's hand. "I told him," she cried. "I told him you were bleeding." The woman's eyes filled with tears as she squeezed her daughter's fingers weakly. "You were brave," she whispered. "So brave." Jae-min watched the exchange with something unreadable on his face. When the stretcher disappeared through the back exit, he turned to the child. She stood alone now, cheeks wet, eyes red, hands empty. She looked smaller without her mother in reach. "What's your name?" he asked. "Yuna," she said. "Yuna," he repeated. "Do you know where you live?" She nodded and rattled off an address from memory that was far too practiced for a child her age. He straightened and looked at his lieutenant. "You're staying with them at the hospital. She doesn't leave your sight. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "And Yuna," he said, crouching again so they were level. "I'm going to make sure your mother wakes up, and I'm going to make sure no one ever hurts her again." Her lower lip trembled. "You promise?" He held her gaze. "I don't promise things I can't keep." She nodded, accepting that in the simple, absolute way children accept truth. 10 minutes later, his phone buzzed. "We found him." Jamin looked out at the city through the restaurant's glass wall. Seoul glittered back, indifferent, endless. "Bring him," he said, "and clear my schedule." The night had changed direction, and the man responsible had no idea how expensive that mistake was about to become. They brought him in quietly. No dramatic entrance, no shouting, no resistance worth mentioning. Men like him never expected consequences to arrive this fast, this organized, this final. He was still wearing the same hoodie he'd been seen in on the building's security footage, hands shoved into the front pocket like he was annoyed to be inconvenienced. His eyes flicked around the private room, registering the expensive furniture, the men in black, the silence that pressed in from all sides. Then his gaze landed on Jae-min. Recognition hit instantly. His face drained of color. "I didn't know," he blurted, the words tumbling over each other. "I swear I didn't know she worked for you. If I'd known, I would have—" Jae-min raised one hand. The room went dead quiet. "She doesn't belong to me," he said evenly. "That's your first mistake." The man swallowed hard. Sweat gathered at his hairline. "It was an accident. She slipped. She always slips. She's clumsy. I told her to be careful, but she never listens. I lost my temper, that's all." Jae-min studied him the way a surgeon studied an infection, not with anger, with interest, with the calm assessment of something that needed to be removed before it spread. "Did you hit her?" Jae-min asked. The man hesitated, just a fraction too long. "I didn't mean to hurt her," he said instead. Jae-min nodded once. "That's not an answer." He stepped closer, close enough that the man could smell the faint, clean scent of his cologne. Cedar, smoke, control. Jae-min's voice dropped, not threatening, not raised, just impossibly steady. "Let me explain something to you, very clearly. You didn't make a mistake tonight. You revealed who you are." The man's bravado cracked. "Please," he whispered. "I can fix this. I'll leave. I'll disappear. I won't ever touch her again." "You already did," Jae-min replied. "Enough times that your daughter learned how to whisper for help." That name, daughter, hit like a blade. The man shook his head violently. "She shouldn't have said anything. She's dramatic. Kids exaggerate. You don't understand." Jae-min turned away before the sentence finished. To anyone else, it might have looked like mercy, like he was done, like the man had been spared. He wasn't. "Take him," Jae-min said calmly. "But not here." The men moved instantly, gripping the man's arms as he began to shout, panic flooding his voice. He screamed promises, threats, apologies. None of it mattered. The door closed behind them, sealing the sound away like it had never existed. Jae-min stood alone for a moment, the echo of the girl's whisper replaying in his mind. "My mommy is bleeding." He didn't sit back down. The mood was gone. The night was no longer about business. An hour later, he was standing outside a private hospital room, watching through the glass as Yuna slept curled against her mother's side. The woman's head was bandaged now. Color had returned faintly to her cheeks. Alive, still fragile, still breathing. Jaemin's doctor stepped beside him. "She'll recover," he said. "Physically. The rest depends." Jae-min nodded. Inside the room, Yuna stirred and opened her eyes. She saw him immediately. Children always noticed who stayed. He entered quietly, stopping a respectful distance from the bed. Yuna sat up a little, rubbing her eyes. "You came back," she said. Yes, he replied. I said I would. Is my mommy safe? She will be. She studied him with serious concentration. Did you make the bad man go away? Jae-min didn't lie. Yes. Forever? He paused. Just long enough. Yes, he said. Yuna relaxed, as if a weight she didn't have words for had finally been lifted. She lay back down, her small hand resting protectively on her mother's arm. As Jae-min turned to leave, the woman's eyes fluttered open. Fear sparked instantly when she saw him, her body tensing despite the pain. Please, she whispered. I'll work harder. I won't cause trouble. I won't. He stopped beside her bed. You don't work for me anymore, he said. Her eyes widened in confusion. You're under my protection, he continued. That means housing, security, a job that doesn't put you alone at night, and if anyone ever raises their voice at you again, you tell them my name. Tears spilled freely now. Why? She asked. Why are you doing this? Jae-min thought of the whisper, of the blood, of the child who'd learned to be brave too early. Because someone should have done it sooner, he said. As he left the hospital, his phone buzzed again. A message from his lieutenant. One line. It's done. Jae-min didn't reply. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and looked out over the city, understanding something new with unsettling clarity. Power wasn't about fear. Sometimes it was about who listened when no one else did. Jae-min thought that would be the end of it, a closed chapter, a necessary correction in a world full of noise and cruelty. He had handled the problem, protected the innocent, removed the threat. That was how his life worked. Clean lines, clear outcomes, but some moments don't end when you walk away from them. They follow you. 2 weeks passed. Business resumed its usual rhythm. Meetings, negotiations, territory disputes settled with quiet efficiency. Seoul kept moving. Jae-min kept winning. Yet the image of a small hand gripping his sleeve, the sound of a whisper barely loud enough to exist, refused to fade. My mommy is bleeding. It surfaced at odd times, during boardroom conversations, while reviewing numbers that decided the fate of companies and men alike. Late at night, when the city lights stretched endlessly beneath his penthouse windows, and silence pressed in. He told himself it was nothing. Residual noise. An anomaly. Then the report came in. The woman's name was Soo-jin, 26 years old. No criminal record, no family in the city except her daughter. The background check revealed what the bruises hadn't needed to explain. Years of police calls that went nowhere, complaints withdrawn, statements revised, a pattern of survival masquerading as compliance. Jae-min stared at the file longer than necessary. She's refusing the apartment, his lieutenant said carefully. Says it's too much. She doesn't trust that nothing comes with it. That at least made sense. What about the job? Jae-min asked. She accepted. Day shift, public building, security present. And the child. In school, small private one, staff vetted. Jae-min nodded. It should have been enough. It was more than enough. Yet something in his chest remained unsettled, like a calculation left unfinished. 3 nights later, he found himself doing something he hadn't done in years. He showed up without being expected. The building was modest, clean, quiet, the kind of place people disappeared into without being noticed. Jae-min remained in the car while one of his men knocked. He watched through the tinted window as Soo-jin opened the door and froze. Fear crossed her face instantly, not because she recognized him, but because men at doors had never meant anything good. Yuna peeked out from behind her mother's leg. Then recognition lit her face like sunrise. It's him, she said, loud and certain. The man who listened. Soo-jin's breath hitched. Jae-min stepped inside slowly, hands visible, posture non-threatening in a way that felt unfamiliar on his body. The apartment smelled like cheap detergent and rice, Small shoes were lined neatly by the door. A drawing taped to the wall caught his eye. Crayon lines, a woman holding a little girl's hand, both of them smiling too big. "I'm sorry," Sujin said quickly, already apologizing out of habit. "If this isn't allowed." "I won't stay long," Jae-min said. "I just wanted to see that you were both well." Silence followed. Not awkward. Careful. Yuna broke it. "My mommy laughs now," she announced proudly. "At night." Sujin flushed, embarrassed, but Jae-min felt something shift again, something tight loosening. "That's good," he said. Yuna studied him with the same seriousness she'd shown that night. "Are you a bad guy?" The question landed without warning. Sujin gasped softly. "Yuna." Jae-min raised a hand gently. "It's all right." He considered the child. Considered the truth. Children had a way of demanding it. "Yes," he said finally. "Sometimes." Yuna frowned, thinking. "But you help people." "Yes." "Then you're not the kind of bad that hurts mommies." "No," he agreed quietly. "I'm not." She seemed satisfied with that answer. She grabbed his hand without asking and tugged him toward the small table. "Sit. Mommy made soup." Jae-min hesitated. No one tugged him anywhere. Ever. And yet he sat. He stayed for 10 minutes, then 20, then longer than he intended. He didn't eat much, but he listened. Sujin spoke haltingly at first, then with more ease as the minutes passed. About work, about fear, about learning how to sleep without flinching. When he finally stood to leave, the weight in his chest felt different. Not gone, just changed. At the door, Sujin bowed deeply. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing us." Jae-min met her eyes. "Live well," he replied. "That's thanks enough." As he walked away, he didn't notice the shadow watching from across the street, the man on the phone, the low voice murmuring a name. Kang Jae-min. Some mistakes don't die quietly. Some wait. The shadow across the street wasn't subtle. It didn't need to be. Men like that never believed anyone was watching them, because most of the time no one was. He leaned against a parked car, phone pressed to his ear, eyes fixed on the apartment building Jae-min had just left. He spoke in low, efficient bursts, the kind that didn't waste words on emotion. "Yes," he came personally. Pause. "No, alone. Stayed longer than expected." Another pause. "There's a woman, a kid." The call ended. The man slipped the phone into his pocket and smiled faintly. This wasn't about business anymore. This was about leverage. Jae-min felt it before anyone reported it. A shift. The same instinct that had kept him alive long enough to become untouchable stirred, quiet but insistent. Patterns didn't break without reason, and people didn't suddenly become interested in the private lives of men like him unless they thought there was something to gain. The first warning came 3 days later. The school called. Yuna hadn't been picked up on time. Her mother was late. 15 minutes late. Sujin had never been late. Not once since starting her new job. Not even when the bus broke down. Not even when fear still woke her shaking at night. Jae-min was in a meeting when the message reached him. He didn't excuse himself. He stood. The conversation died instantly. "Find her," he said. "Now." The city responded. Cameras were checked, routes traced, a bus that never arrived, a street that didn't show her crossing, a gap. Small, deliberate, intentional. Someone had learned just enough about his world to think they could step into it without consequence. By the time Jae-min reached the school, Yuna was sitting alone in the administrative office, legs swinging, clutching her backpack like a shield. Her eyes went to the door the second he entered. "You're late," she said, not accusing, just stating a fact. He crouched in front of her, scanning her quickly. No injuries, no fear yet, just confusion. The worst part of waiting. "Your mother is on her way," he said calmly. "I promise." She tilted her head. You promised before. He nodded. And I kept it. That seemed to reassure her. She leaned back in her chair, trusting him with the kind of faith adults rarely earned. Outside, one of his men approached, face tight. We found the bus, he said quietly. Abandoned 2 stops early. Witness says she got off with a man who claimed to be school security. Jamin's jaw clenched. They took her, the man continued. Alive. That was the mistake. Jamin didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Bring the car, he said, and don't let Yuna out of your sight. He turned back to the girl. We're going to get your mom. Yuna looked up at him, eyes steady. Is it my fault? The question cut deeper than any threat. No, he said immediately. It will never be your fault. She nodded, accepting it the way children do when they believe you mean it. The call came an hour later. A private number. Jamin answered without hesitation. You're difficult to reach, the voice on the other end said lightly. For someone who runs half the city. Who are you? Jamin asked. A chuckle. Someone you inconvenienced. You took something that belonged to me. I took a woman you were killing, Jamin replied. Those aren't the same thing. Silence stretched. Then, you've grown sentimental. You've grown careless. The man laughed again. She's fine, for now. But you need to understand something. You made this personal the moment you sat at her table. The moment you let the child touch you. That's not power, Jamin. That's weakness. Jamin's eyes flicked to Yuna through the glass, laughing quietly at something one of his men whispered to distract her. No, he said softly. That's motivation. The voice hardened. You want her back? You come alone. No men, no weapons, old port warehouse, midnight. And if I don't? Then the little girl gets another lesson about bleeding. The line went dead. Jamin didn't move for several seconds. Then he handed the phone to his lieutenant. Lock the city, he said. I want every exit watched, every dock, every road, every shadow, and find out who thinks they're brave enough to threaten a child. Yes, sir. Jamin looked back at Yuna. She was smiling, unaware, safe for the moment. He would keep it that way. Midnight was coming, and someone had just declared war without understanding who they were fighting. Midnight came with fog rolling in from the river, thick enough to blur the city lights into dull halos. The old port warehouse squatted at the edge of the docks, like a forgotten memory, rusted steel and cracked concrete bearing the scars of decades of quiet deals. Jamin arrived alone, exactly as instructed. No visible weapon, no entourage, just a long coat, steady steps, and a calm that unsettled the men watching from the shadows. They expected hesitation, they expected fear, they got neither. Inside, the air smelled of salt and oil. Footsteps echoed too loudly. A single light hung from the ceiling, illuminating a chair at the center of the space. Sujin sat in it, wrists bound but posture upright, eyes swollen from crying yet sharp with determination. When she saw him, relief flashed across her face, quickly replaced by terror. No, she whispered. You shouldn't be here. Jamin stopped 10 feet away. I said I would protect you. A slow clap broke the silence. A man stepped into the light, well-dressed, confident, wearing the expression of someone who believed the game had finally tilted in his favor. You did, the man said. For a while. But you broke the rules. There were never rules, Jamin replied. Only consequences. The man smiled thinly. You see? That arrogance is exactly why this was necessary. You let people think you're untouchable. I just wanted to remind you that everyone has a price. Jamin's gaze never left him. Where is the child? The man shrugged. Safe. For now, she's leverage. Insurance. Jamin inhaled slowly. This was the moment. The point where violence would have been easy, satisfying, final. But he didn't move. You don't understand what you've done, he said quietly. Oh, I understand perfectly, the man replied. I took something you care about. That's how power works. Jamin shook his head once. No, that's how desperation works. He lifted his hand, not in surrender, but in signal. The warehouse lights snapped on. Doors slammed shut. The shadows dissolved into men already on their knees, weapons kicked away before they'd registered the ambush. The man's smile vanished as reality crashed down around him. You said come alone, he spat. I did, Jamin said. You didn't say I couldn't arrive first. The man lunged, reaching for Sujin, but he was intercepted instantly, restrained with brutal efficiency. Jamin crossed the distance and stopped inches from his face. Where is Yuna? He asked again. The man laughed, wild now. You're too late. Jamin's expression didn't change. No, you are. A screen lowered from the ceiling, video feed, a small room. Yuna sat on a couch, feet swinging, eating a snack while one of Jamin's men read her a story in a voice that did not match his size. She was never out of my sight, Jamin said. You took the mother. I took everything else. The man sagged, deflated. You can't kill me, he whispered. Too many eyes. Jamin leaned in. I'm not going to. He turned to Sujin and untied her wrists himself. Go home, he said gently. Your daughter is waiting. Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, unable to speak. As his men escorted her out, Jamin faced the man one last time. You wanted leverage, he said. You wanted to teach a lesson. Here it is. The city will forget your name by morning. Your accounts are empty. Your allies are gone. And you will live knowing the only thing you had, fear, no longer works. He turned away, already finished. Outside, the fog thinned. Somewhere across the city, a little girl laughed. And Jamin realized something had changed again. He hadn't just protected them. He'd chosen them. The city woke up to rumors before it woke up to facts. Whispers moved faster than headlines ever could. A powerful man had vanished overnight. Accounts frozen. Properties seized. Allies distancing themselves with the speed of survival instinct. No body. No spectacle. Just absence. In Jamin's world, that was louder than any execution. Sujin didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her new bed, back straight, hands folded together, waiting for the fear to return, waiting for the sound of a door opening without permission, waiting for pain to remind her that safety was temporary. It didn't come. Yuna slept curled beside her, breathing slow and deep, one arm flung across her mother's waist like an anchor. Every few minutes, Sujin checked her chest to make sure it was still rising. Old habits died slowly. When the sun rose, it felt unreal. The first knock at the door nearly sent her heart into her throat. She moved quietly, peering through the peephole, already rehearsing apologies she shouldn't need. It was Jamin. No guards visible. No coat this time. Just dark slacks, a crisp shirt, sleeves rolled up. He looked less like the man who ruled shadows and more like someone who had been awake all night making decisions that would ripple outward for years. I won't come in unless you ask, he said calmly. She opened the door wider and stepped aside. Inside, Yuna appeared instantly, hair messy, eyes bright. You came back again. Yes, he said. I told you I would. She studied his face with intense seriousness. Is my mommy safe now? Jamin looked at Sujin before answering. Yes. Yuna nodded, satisfied, then did something that froze everyone in place. She hugged him, wrapped her small arms around his waist, and squeezed with everything she had. Sujin gasped. Yuna, it's okay, Jamin said quietly. His hands hovered for half a second, uncertain, then settled gently on the child's back. He closed his eyes once. Briefly, like someone memorizing a moment they didn't know they needed. Breakfast was simple, rice, eggs, too much quiet. Then Jamin stood. There's something we need to discuss, he said. All of us. Sujin's stomach tightened. Are we in trouble? No, he replied. You're being offered a choice. He explained it plainly. Protection wasn't temporary. It never had been. A new identity if she wanted it. Education support. Therapy. A future that didn't require looking over her shoulder. Not ownership. Not obligation. An exit she could take at any time. And if I say no? She asked softly. Then I will still make sure no one ever touches you again, he said. But you won't be alone unless you choose to be. Sujin looked at her daughter, at the quiet apartment, at the man who had changed everything by listening once. What do you want, Yuna? She asked. Yuna didn't hesitate. I want Mommy to laugh every night. Something in Jaemin's chest shifted permanently. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city, Jaemin stood on his balcony watching Seoul glow. He understood now what power really was. Not fear, not money, not control. It was responsibility. And he had accepted it the moment a little girl whispered the truth. Jaemin didn't announce the decision. He didn't need to. Some shifts were quiet, internal, settling into place without ceremony. Sujin and Yuna stayed, not because they were forced, not because they were afraid to leave, but because for the first time in their lives, staying felt like an act of choice instead of survival. The city adjusted around them. Yuna's school changed. A better one, closer, safer. She made friends quickly, the way children do when they no longer carry fear like a second spine. Sujin started therapy twice a week, the kind that didn't rush healing or demand gratitude. Some days she spoke, some days she cried, some days she sat in silence and learned that silence could exist without danger. Jaemin never hovered. He never reminded them what he'd done. He never framed protection as debt. He simply showed up. At school events, standing at the back. At hospital follow-ups, sitting outside the room, reading reports while pretending not to listen. At night, when Yuna insisted on calling him to say goodnight, like it was the most natural thing in the world. You laughed today, Yuna would tell him proudly. My mommy laughed a lot. And every time something inside him steadied. People noticed, not the public, not the news, but the kind of people who watched power closely. Rivals grew cautious. Allies recalibrated. The story spread quietly through the underworld, distorted but unmistakable. Kang Jae-min had drawn a line, not around territory, around people, around children. That made him unpredictable. And unpredictability made him dangerous in a way fear never could. One night, months later, Jae-min sat at the same restaurant where it had all begun. Same private room, same table, different atmosphere. The laughter was gone, replaced by measured conversation, respectful distance. No one mistook his silence for softness anymore. His phone buzzed. A voice message. Yuna. Uncle Jaemin, she said, mispronouncing his name the same way she always did. Mommy says I have to sleep now, but I wanted to tell you. She's not scared anymore, and I'm not either. There was a pause, a small breath. Thank you for listening that day. The message ended. Jaemin didn't replay it. He didn't need to. It etched itself into him deeper than any scar. He stood signaling the end of the meeting. As he walked out into the Seoul night, the city felt different. Not safer, not kinder, just answerable. Because somewhere in it lived a little girl who had learned that when the world hurts you, sometimes one person listening is enough to change everything. And Kang Jae-min would never laugh the same way again. If this story pulled you in, don't stop here. Watch the next video on your screen to see how one choice can change an entire destiny.